So I want to thank everybody for coming out today. Beautiful August day. It's hard to believe summer's going to be winding down. September's coming. At our next Lunch and Learn in September, I'll be explaining a bunch of initiatives that we're going to be rolling out at the police department. So some exciting things are happening, and we're going to be offering some enhanced programs and different things along that nature. I wanted to touch upon a couple of things. Things are going really well at the police department in regards to training and initiatives. We've been very busy, though. I don't know if you've seen or heard in some press releases we put out, but we had an individual that was shot with a pellet gun. Someone shot at one of our cruisers with a pellet gun. We did solve that case. We made an arrest on that. And that individual, he's in his 20s. He has autism. So some people in town decided to do a walk for him because he likes to walk around town. And when he was going for his walk around 3 in the afternoon is when this happened. So it's a walk from that. It's going to take place this Sunday at 1 o'clock over on the Common. All are invited to attend if you just want to go over and just say hello. I think it's nice. It's awareness for autism and support one of our residents who was injured. Not seriously, thankfully. Also, just to remind everybody that tomorrow I'll be standing out at West and East Hartford Ave at North Main, making sure all our cyclists from the Pan Mass Challenge make it through Uxbridge safely. That ride starts from Sturbridge, ends in P-Town on Sunday. So obviously we have some people in town that are riding in it. Obviously it's the Pan Mass support people that are fighting cancer and for research, near and dear to my heart. As you know, I lost my nephew to cancer, who was actually a pedal partner for a team, and there's actually a team in his honor, Team Jake. His name was Jacob Matthew Boudreau. So if you have nothing to do and you want to come out, 6:30 to basically 7 o'clock to 9:30, you'll see thousands of riders go through our town, basically raising awareness and funding to fight cancer. As I said, we were very busy. I named the incident, the vandalism, but we also had some vandalism right here at the senior center, and a larceny. The pineapple right out front was stolen. Again, we utilized some video that we have on the town hall, but there's no direct camera access to the senior center, so we weren't able to capture good enough video to release or to identify people. But like I said, we're still actively working that case, and hopefully we'll receive some information, someone will talk, and we'll be able to recover that and solve that. We also had a breaking and entering at the Blanchard School. As you know, they're going to be doing housing there. They did some vandalism in there as well. I consider it a hate crime, put SWAT stickers on the chalkboards and different things. So we're going to be doing some stepped-up patrols there, and obviously we're going to definitely try to solve that case. It's been very busy at the police department. The officers and detectives are doing a great job, and investigators solving numerous cases. So I'm very pleased with them. But I want to go back for 1 second. The incident that happened here, I mean, that was a donated item in memory of someone's mom. So there's some sentimental value to that we want to recover. So Marsha is talking to Chief Kessler. I'll be talking to Chief Kessler as I'm on the fire station building committee. And we like to make sure that maybe, we have some cameras placed that can catch the front, and sides of this building. Because let's face it, you've done a great job sprucing up the front with the benches and different things, and we want to make sure that our assets are safe. Why I've always been a big proponent of video surveillance. It helps us solve a lot of crimes. And it's been controversial in town about spending certain funding on that. But again, if we had a camera that was placed on the front, we probably would have been able to identify these individuals by now. So it definitely helps us solve cases. So again, I want to thank everybody for having the police department here the first Friday of every month. If there's any topics that you want to hear about or learn about, please notify Marsha or Jean Daly, my administrative assistant who's here today. Thank you, Jean, or myself, and we'll get that to you. Very pleased. I'm going to be introducing, after we serve you lunch and get settled, Liz Haddad. Liz Haddad's from the district attorney's office. Jean and I get to see her 2 days in a row. Last night, we attended an opioid event at Valley Chapel Church that Jackman Funeral Home facilitated, which I thought was great. They brought in a recovering addict who talked about his story to try to give people hope and move on and lead productive lives and stay alive, basically. And I really want to commend Jackman Funeral Home and Valley Chapel, I mean, this is a business that deals with death frequently, and families that lose people in critical and disastrous times due to opiate addiction. So they're taking a proactive effort with Valley Chapel to try to educate people and if just possibly save one life. So Liz Haddad was there last night. She does a great job for District Attorney Joe Early's office on outreach programs. She's going to talk to you today. So we'll serve you lunch, and then we'll get on with today's program. And again, thank you for having your police department with you the first Friday of every month.
Okay, I just want to thank the chief, and I want to thank the fire department for partnering with us to try to keep our community safe. We know you go to great lengths to keep all of us safe, and that you care about all of us. So thank you for being here. We'll just take a moment to give thanks for this nice day. I guess maybe before we do, I just want to take a moment. Do we have cards? Yeah. We have two people celebrating their 90th birthday among us today. Dear friends Phyllis Smith and Alice Sutsky. So we want to wish Alice and Phyllis a very happy 90th year and many more to come. We thank you for your service to our community, and we wish you a very, very happy birthday. So we're glad you're here today. Happy birthday. And Jean, our friend Jean, is turning 66, I think. Jean and I went to high school together, but we won't say that. Yes, we're 39, right? We're 39. Yeah. Yeah, we look great. So happy birthday to you, Jean. Okay. So we'll just take a moment to give thanks for one another for this day and this nice meal that we're about to receive. Thank you.
So without further ado, I'm going to introduce to you, this is Liz Haddad. As I stated before, she's from District Attorney Joseph Early's office, and she basically is all over the Worcester County doing outreach. And like I said, last night we were together at an opiate forum. So Liz works tirelessly for us here in Uxbridge, and I want to thank her on behalf of the agency. We're very, very appreciative for all your hard work, Liz.
Thank you. Very much. Thank you very much, Chief. I hope that my boss watches the broadcast of this on cable to see my great welcome here at the Uxbridge Senior Center. So I want to say thank you to Chief Laurie and to Marcia and, of course, to Jean, who arranged everything. It's always great to come out here to Uxbridge. We get a nice crowd, and I always feel very appreciated. So as Chief Laurie said, my name is Liz Haddad, and I work for District Attorney Joe Early. So the District Attorney's Office is the lead prosecutor here in the county, in Worcester County. So we have 11 courts, 11 district courts. We have 2 superior court sessions. We have juvenile. And the main office of our work, of course, is to prosecute all the criminal matters here in the county. But I am not an attorney. I actually work in the DA's outreach unit. So for District Attorney Early, as important as prosecuting crimes is, he also believes that prevention is a very important part of his job as well. And his motto has been since the day he got in office in 2007 is, I'd rather prevent a crime than solve a crime. So that's why I'm here today. I'm going to talk about frauds and scams and a little bit of identity theft. I did pass out a lot of information. We won't go through all of that. A lot of that is for reading on your own. I also printed out this program here. Sometimes I do it in a PowerPoint, but I'm just going to kind of go along with it. That also has a lot of information. We're not going to go slide by slide, but you can look at that at your leisure. If you notice, I'm sorry, it printed upside down on the back pages, and I wanted to save the taxpayers a few dollars, so I didn't reprint it. But it's got a lot of great information in it and places to take notes. So I'm going to talk a little bit about identity theft, but really I want to talk mostly about frauds and scams. Because here's the thing, I travel all over the county, and I talk to seniors all the time about, the frauds and scams that are affecting them. And, mostly what they talk about is these scams, phone scams and mail scams and all of that stuff. So I really want to focus on that because that's what I want to keep folks safe from. But, most of the scam calls that you're getting are either trying to scam you out of money or they're trying to scam you out of information, which is identity theft. And identity theft is just when people use your personal information without permission. So whether that is your credit card number or your social security number or something like that, that's what identity theft is. And many times that's what these callers or mail fraud scammers are trying to get. But there's also the scamming of money. So a lot of these scammers are just trying to make a quick buck off of you. And I think that is really the big thing that we hear about with seniors. Now, if you read in the Telegram maybe 2 weeks ago, I would say, I think it was the Sunday Telegram, not on the front page or anything, but a couple pages in, there was an article. The district attorney did have a press release about a current phone scam that was happening in the county about jury duty. So this is a scam that pops up every now and then. And again, these scams, they come and they go. So they'll start up and a lot of people will get scammed and then the word will kind of go out. You know, don't pay attention to that phone call. So then when people stop falling for it, they'll come up with another one. But recently in the county, and it's still happening, people are getting phone calls saying that they have missed jury duty and that they need to pay a fine and that they can pay it over the phone. Now, in the past, they've even said there's a warrant out for their arrest if they don't pay the fine. So here's what I'm going to tell you. You actually could have a warrant out for your arrest if you miss jury duty, but it's very unlikely. It doesn't really happen very often. But here's the other thing. If you miss jury duty, nobody will ever call you by phone and ask you to pay a fine over the phone. So if you get a call like that, then you know it's a fraud, especially the paying over the phone. As I always like to say, I don't think state government would ever make it so easy that you could just pay by phone with a credit card on any fine. You definitely have to go through more steps than that. But I will tell you that as far as jury duty goes, whether you miss it or you're summoned, everything is done by mail. Nobody ever calls you. That is a current scam that's happening. So if you hear that, if you hear it from anybody else, let them know. That is a scam. And I think when I walked in, it's funny, Marcia mentioned the grandparent scam. So the grandparent scam is really a scam that has been around, I feel like, for a good 5 years now. And there's a lot of variations on it, but it really started as the grandparent scam, and it's still operates like that. And that's a phone call that people get, and a lot of times it'll be like a girl that's crying, or it'll be a young man but his voice won't sound right, and they'll be talking to you like they're your grandchild, and you'll say, Grandma, I'm in trouble. And the girl will sound like she's crying, so it disguises her voice. Or maybe I had one lady that said, I kept saying to him, you don't sound like yourself. And he said, yeah, they beat me up, and I've got a broken nose, and I'm really hurt. And so they have all these different ways of making you think it's your grandchild. And you might say, oh, well, they knew my grandchild's name. But, you know, you answer the phone, and somebody starts saying, Grandma, or Grandpa. And you say, oh, Bobby, is that you? And the scammer goes, oh, yeah, it's me. It's Bobby. And then immediately they know your grandchild's name. So, and what they do is they tell you they're in trouble, usually out of the country. I'm in Canada, or I'm in Mexico on spring break, or I went to Puerto Rico, or something like that. I'm in trouble. I've been arrested for drunk driving, or I got hurt in an accident. And I need you to send me $2,500, or they're not going to let me out of jail. I need to get bailed out of jail. So, and they always want you to wire the money. Or now sometimes they actually ask for the gift cards or the green dot cards, which when you hear something like that, would it make sense to anybody that a government agency would say, yeah, you can pay your bail in green dot cards? Just doesn't make sense. Or gift cards, right? So we do hear of that sometimes. They say, go out and get get the gift cards. So this grandparent scam has been going on for a really long time. Sometimes there are other variations. They say that someone's been in an accident, they've been arrested. They just come up with all different ways and variations on the scam. But here's the thing. If somebody calls you out of the blue, says they're your relative, and they want you to wire money out of the country, the first thing you say is, okay, hold on. Why don't you call me back? I'm going to call your mother and make sure you're out of the country. And at that point, they'll probably say, no, don't tell my parents. Don't tell my parents. But the truth is, you need to verify that someone's out of the country. I still think it's unlikely if your grandchild was out of the country and in jail, the first thing they're going to do is harass their grandmother for money. They're going to call their parents. So this scam has gone on for a really long time. And the reason for that is it works. People keep sending money. So one thing about the scammers is they're very efficient in this way. When a scam doesn't work anymore, then they stop doing the scamming. But this one, for some reason, continues on. I think it's partly because our seniors, they believe people. And honestly, if they think it's their grandchildren, they want to take care of their grandchildren. They want to help their grandchildren. I think sometimes we have some of our seniors that don't get out as much. I mean, it's so wonderful to have 40 people here having lunch, socializing, and getting really important information. But we have a lot of our seniors that don't get out as much, and they don't get this information. And so they're very susceptible to these kind of phone calls. And these phone scams are so cheap for the scammers, they've got nothing to lose to just keep trying it. Everything is computerized. The phone calls are computerized. They just dial one number after another. Finally, someone picks up and they start their scam. And if, a lot of people hang up. But you know something? If only 5% of the people or 10% of the people actually pick up the phone, and a smaller percentage than that even send them $2,000 or $2,500, it's a pretty good day's pay. So that's why it keeps working. So when it comes to the grandparent scam, I'm just going to say you need to spread the word through all your friends and all your family members, that this thing where people are in trouble out of the country and they want you to wire money, that is a scam phone call, and it's gone on for a really long time. And I'd love to see it kind of come to an end, but it just does not. And I'm sure everybody or many people in this room have heard of people that have been affected by it. They've heard the phone call. I'm hoping that nobody has met anybody that sent money, but it does happen pretty frequently. Another type of phone scam that's a little less common, but it still goes on. Particularly, we've had some cases in the county, and it's more isolated homebound seniors that get roped into it, and these are the Nigerian 419 scams. So these are phone calls that people get saying that this person is from a country, from Nigeria or another country, and they got your number from somebody and they need some help getting some money to the country, or they can't use the banking system, or they have all this money and their husband was arrested or their wife was, these big long tales they tell you. And what they say is if you'll help them use your bank account, they'll pay you your money back, or they'll pay the money back, and you'll get a big reward for it. Millions of dollars or something like that. All they want is for you to give them their bank account, your bank account number, and they're going to put money in there, and then you'll get payouts and blah, blah, blah. And I have to tell you something. They're not as common, but when we do see them, there are a lot of times there are seniors that are homebound, and they get hooked in. The thing with these Nigerian 419 scams is if they find someone that'll wire them $500 today, they'll call them in a few days and get them to wire $1,000. And sometimes they use an inheritance thing, like you've gotten an inheritance, but you have to pay all these taxes and fees to release the money. And what we've seen happen is they really get their hooks into people. And they will keep calling them and calling them and calling them. In one part of the county, there was a woman in her 90s, still living on her own with a lot of assistance, but her family did not realize she was giving tens of thousands of dollars away. Finally, the bank is the one that called and said, something's going on here. We had a case once, this was a few years ago, a woman, her husband was in a nursing home, he had Parkinson's, and she got involved in this 419 scam, and she thought she was going to get like $85,000, and she thought she'd be able to bring him home, and the truth is they just scammed her out of more and more money. By the time she called the police, they wanted something like $21,000 from her. And then when she said no, she kept saying, I don't have that kind of money. They started calling her night and day. So they start off nice, but then they can get very, very mean and frightening. So, so those are Nigerian 419 scams. That's another thing. If you have friends or you have family members that tend to get out less, that don't have as much exposure to this kind of information, talk to them about the fact that if people are calling them out of the blue about ways to get money using the banking system or these inheritances or whatever it is, these prizes, they don't want to fall for that. Don't give people, your bank or credit card information over the phone. There's a lot of other phone scams that are out there, and some of them are the charitable donations. And, I always say when you're on the phone, it's very, very difficult to tell the difference between a legitimate charity and a fake charity. So my rule of thumb is no donations over the phone. Anytime you get any kind of a phone call asking for bank information, credit card information, or personal information, it's just a no-no, no matter who they say they are. And then sometimes the scam calls come from purported government agencies as well. But the charities are tough. They all sound good. They're always nice. That's what people say. Oh, they were so nice on the phone. Well, of course they are. They're scamming you out of your money. So they're always nice. Oh, it sounded like really, they're going to help children. They're going to help people with cancer. That's what they always do. They always sound good. Sometimes they're supposed to be from your local police department. In that case, and I'm sure the chief can speak to it. I don't know if you do a fundraising campaign that way. But you know what? If you're not sure, you just say, you know what? I give directly to my local police and hang up. And you can even call the chief and say somebody's calling around Uxbridge saying there's some fundraising going on. So all these charitable donations, everybody's always nice. The cause is very worthy, but it's very hard to tell the difference. Very hard to tell the difference. Now, there's another kind of a scam where they're not so nice, and those are the IRS scams. I think they've eased up a little bit. They happen during tax season quite a bit, but people get calls saying they owe back taxes and that they need to pay right away. And sometimes they are very threatening. A woman in elder housing in Worcester in her late 80s, and thankfully she called her daughter. She did not give money. They called her and they were screaming at her. We have federal marshals. They're coming in. You need to give us your bank information. They wanted her credit card information. You're going to pay those back taxes now, screaming and yelling at her. She was really frightened. Luckily, she hung up, called her daughter, and said, somebody just called me about back taxes. And she's like, Mom, you don't owe any back taxes. But so in this case, they're not being nice. They're being threatening. And let's face it, when we get a phone call from the IRS saying we owe money, saying we're going to be in trouble, people react to that. They're frightened. So that's another one. All of these calls, they're all scams. They're all variation on a theme. They're using some kind of manipulative tactic to get you to give credit card or bank information so that they can steal money from you. I always tell people, government agencies and banks will never call you on the phone and ask you for personal information, ask you for account numbers, ask you for PIN numbers. So that's why the IRS scam, it's important to understand. The IRS does not call people on the phone. They contact them by mail. Social Security does not call you on the phone. They contact you by mail. If there's an issue with your bank, your account, they may call you, but they may call you and tell you there's a problem. They're never going to call you and say, hi, Marcia, there's a problem with your account. Could you tell us your account number and your PIN? They're never going to do that. If you get a call like that, you need to hang up and call your bank right away. In terms of personal information on the phone, if anybody does call you, sometimes doctor's offices, there are other agencies that may call you. The rule of thumb really is if you've made the phone call, you can feel comfortable giving the information. Anybody that's calling you, that you haven't made the phone call, you really can't trust who's on the other end of that phone. If you don't initiate the phone call, then you don't give out the information. Even if it sounds legit, you can always say, you know what? It sounds like the right thing, but I'm going to hang up and I'm going to look up the number and I'm going to call your agency back myself. And as far as, the do not call list, I have a lot of people that say to me, well, my name's on the do not call list, so why do I keep getting these phone calls? So there's a few things that's important to know about the do not call list. Number one is political political candidates and registered charities are in fact exempt from the do not call list. Okay? But here's the problem with that. You say, well, legitimate people are exempt, but all the other people shouldn't be calling. So, but the thing is, if I'm a scammer, I don't really care if your name's on the do not call list. Okay? I'm already breaking the law, so I don't care. And then there are less than ethical telemarketers that use it. And the idea is the do not call list is not any kind of a physical function that blocks a call on your phone. It doesn't block calls from coming in. It's a list of names that don't want to receive, of people that don't want to receive telemarketing calls. If I'm a legitimate business, I'm consulting that before I call anybody. But if I'm a scammer, or I'm a less than legitimate business or a sort of unethical marketer, then I don't care if your name is on there. So that's kind of the problem. You can put your name on the do not call list. It's not going to block a scammer. And I think a lot of people felt like, well, if my name's on the do not call list, I should be safe. The other problem is a lot of people say, well, I have call waiting on I have caller ID on my phone, so I'm all set. But the problem is there's something called spoofing. There's all kinds of software out there that allows me to make a phone call from a phone and change that number that comes up in call waiting to anything I want, including, and this might have happened to people, your phone number. So sometimes you pick up your phone, you look at the caller ID, and you say, I'm calling myself? How is that possible? So that's what they do. They just reverse it back so it's your number, so you can't tell where they're calling from. So that is the tough part about the phone, is that you really don't know who's on the other end. And the rule of thumb has to be, if you didn't make the phone call, you don't give the information. And that's it. And you know what? If somebody says, no, really, this is who we say we are, you say, I'm going to hang up now. I'm going to look up the number, and I'm going to call you back myself. And a legitimate business is going to say, that makes sense to me, Mrs. Smith. That's fine. We'll be here when you get back to us. But a scammer's going to say, oh, no, wait a minute. Wait, no, you can't do that. You know, we're not going to be here. We need your answer right now. We need to have this information right now. We're not going to release your grandson. We're going to send federal marshals. They're going to have all this sense of urgency. If you don't do it right now, it's going to be a big problem. So, but no matter what, if you haven't initiated the information, the call, I can't say it enough, don't give out personal information. That really is the best rule of thumb. There are a lot of other scams out there. That's the phone part of it, but there are some other scams out there, especially through the mail. I think of like sweepstakes or these vacation things where they reel you in. You've won a vacation. Like, who wins a vacation without entering something? If you haven't entered something, chances are you haven't won something. So sometimes the vacations are sort of a hook to get you to go stay someplace for free. But you have to go through a sales pitch. And I have heard people say, yeah, it's not like an hour you go and sit. Like sometimes they'll do it at some of the resorts where you buy a timeshare. One lady said that she had to sit there like for a whole day. They would not let them leave. Well, you came, now you have to stay, and all of this. Or sometimes people find out there's a lot of fees associated with these vacations, that they're not really free or reduced or whatever they are. So that's important. Anytime you get something in the mail that sounds too good to be true, well, you know, it probably is. Another thing I like to talk about, it's not a scam so much, but it's sort of below, a little less than ethical. And that's these sort of free trial things that you see. So free trials, and then it's also the clubs. So sometimes you'll see on TV, they'll have a sort of paid programming, and it'll be for skincare, or maybe it'll be for like DVDs of a series, a TV series, Carol Burnett or something like that. And what they do is they say, well, you know, you call and you order and you get the first season for $9.99. Then after that, you can get a DVD every month for $9.99 instead of the whole season. Cancel at any time. See, that's the big thing. You think you can cancel at any time, but they make it very, very difficult to cancel. And I've heard people say that more times. I call them, I say, you've got to just deal with your bank and block the payment. But people have a lot of trouble with those cancel at any time things. They make it tough. And it might not seem like much. well, what happened was I tried to cancel and they kept saying, oh, yeah, we'll cancel you this month. And then they don't. And then the next month they don't. Then maybe finally after 2 months or 3 months they cancel you. But you know what? You multiply that by thousands of people. Again, it adds up quickly. It adds up quickly. The other thing is the free trials. We always say free trials are not usually free. What happens is they get your payment information. Do you notice, like a free trial, you always have to pay for the shipping and handling? Okay? And even sometimes they'll say, act right now and you can get 2 for the same price. Just pay separate shipping and handling. They want your payment information. And if you look in the really fine print or you listen really closely, you find out that by taking the free trial, you're signing up for automatic shipments. And you don't get an option to back out of that. You have to know that and say that on the phone. I don't want automatic shipments. Most people don't realize it's happening. So they get their free trial of cream or whatever it is. And of course, it's, they don't want it. They don't want to keep getting more of it. And what they find out too is the monthly shipment is not like $20. A lot of times they're like $80 or $90. And you call them up and they're like, oh no, you signed up for free shipping, for a monthly shipping. And that's another thing that can take a while to kind of sort itself out. So it's really important that when you see these deals, again, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. I want to talk a little bit about internet scams if we have people that are shopping on the internet. Online shopping, anybody? Okay, let's talk a little bit about that because it is important. Again, the internet is an amazing place to commit scams because think of how easy it is to set up a very realistic looking website that makes you think you're at a legitimate website and gets you to, put your credit card number in and either buy something that's not what it's supposed to be or they just steal your credit card information. These kind of scams really ramp up around Christmas. Because people are looking for deals on, the big it gift of the season. People have gotten boxes with rocks in them or paper in them. They think they're getting a great deal on an iPad or an iPhone or, and of course they're not. And by the time you try to return it, by the time you realize that website is long gone, they've got your information. So when you're shopping on the internet, it's really important that you know you're at a legitimate site and that you're dealing with legitimate businesses, especially for these really too good to be true deals. The same thing goes, I guess, if you're shopping online, we probably have people using email, right? Same thing. Again, with the identity theft and the phishing for information, it's not hard to make an email that looks like it's from a bank or from a business or from whatever, and you never want to click on any links in those emails. If you think you've gotten an email from your bank and suddenly you open it and it's got a funny link in it or they want you to click on that, don't do that. Call your bank on the phone. Call your bank on the phone before you click on any of the links in those emails. Sometimes it might not seem like it's a big deal. They can be loading malware onto your computer so then that they can get other information from you and you don't even realize it. But sometimes they're taking you to a fake site and they're trying to get your account information, your PIN, all of that stuff. So it's really important that you're careful about emails. And again, if you don't recognize the sender and they're asking for information, you just delete it automatically. Another scam I'm going to talk about that just came in my mind that has actually happened quite a bit in the county and happens a lot of times at these standalone ATMs, or it also happens at a lot of self-serve gas stations. And those are the skimmers. Has anybody heard about the skimmers? Yeah. Okay. So they attach a device to the card reader. You can't really see it. Although some of the pictures that I've seen of some of them, if you were really thinking about it, you would have looked and said, yeah, that looks really weird. Even on ATMs, there was a case in Worcester. They had one on an ATM on a bank. They had a little camera that was watching people put their PIN numbers in. But anyways, the skimmers, they go over the card reader. You put your card in. It reads your card and stores the information for the scammers. Then it just goes right into the reader. You buy your gas, you take money out of the ATM, whatever you have to do, and you never even realize it happens. But what happens is they're getting all the information off that magnetic strip. So now they have your credit card number. Sometimes they'll make, there was a couple of years ago, the FBI and a bunch of other international agencies got together and busted up a really big fake credit card operation, like in the Balkans or something like that, where that's what they were doing. They were stealing credit card numbers in America, they were sending them over there, and they were printing out all these fake credit cards. So, there is a market for that. It sounds funny. So, today with the internet, the crime used to be sort of right around us, and it was somebody had to physically rob you. But now with the internet, they don't even have to be near you. And even most of these phone scammers, I just want to make sure people understand that even if you get a call that sounds threatening, I know where you live, or we're going to come to your house, the marshals are coming, they're not around you. They're not usually even in the country. They're usually out of the country. And I try to remind people of that because it can be frightening to get a phone call like that. But the truth is, they're not there. They're not right there. They're not going to come to your house. They're just intimidating you. So that's the hard part about today, is that people can commit crimes and they can actually rob you, and they don't even have to be in our country. It's hard to track it and it's hard to trace it. That's why it's so important to come to, luncheons like this and programs like this to get this kind of information. I'm going to go through my list and see if I missed anything. Foreign language chain letters, phone investments, foreclosure relief. I don't know if you're having issues with your home for foreclosure or anything like that. I just urge everybody not to take a number off a flyer that's posted on a telephone pole, which we see all the time. You deal with your bank, you deal with somebody, but I see that and I think to myself, who's calling that number? Somebody's calling that number, because that's why they do it. Like I say, scammers. If something doesn't work, they don't waste their time. They are on to the next. So, but if you have any kind of financial troubles, you should not be getting financial help from some phone number on a flyer posted publicly. Deal with your bank, deal with your mortgage holder, your credit card holder. There's all kinds of credit card debt relief. One of the things that I guess we see happening is that people are trying to work to reduce their debt relief, or they're getting some debt relief, or they've been scammed, and then what happens is they turn around and scam them again. There's been cases where people are trying to figure out their identity theft problems, and someone comes in and says, I'll solve it, I'll help you with it, and they're actually scammers too. So it's amazing how this can work. You got to deal with legitimate agencies. And if you're scammed, if you have a problem, you're not sure what to do, I don't want to pull the cord. I gave you a pamphlet that gives you information on all the credit reporting agencies, and they're great, but sometimes it can be a little overwhelming to call this 800 number. So I'm going to put it back on Marcia, on the chief. Like, if something like that is happening to you and you're not sure what to do, you can talk to Marcia. You can call the chief. You can call the police department. Somebody there will talk to you about it. These scams are there's so many of them, it's almost hard for me to even be able to go through all them. But if anything's happening, it's really important that you let somebody know. Years ago when we started talking about identity theft, people would say, well, I called my police department and they said there's nothing I can do, and that's it. They're not going to help me. But today, you call your police department, you might say, I want to fill out an identity theft report. That's another thing. If you think you're the victim of identity theft, you want to do a few things right away. You want to go to your local police department and you want to fill out an identity theft report. And then you want to call these credit reporting agencies and talk to their fraud hotline and tell them that something's happened and put it on record. Because the truth is, if you are the victim of identity theft, if you have that police report, if you've talked to the credit reporting agencies, then you have some protections under the law that you might not have if you don't ever report it. You might say, well, yeah, they got my credit card number, or yeah, they got some information, but nobody can solve it anyway, so why report it? Because you want to protect yourself as the victim of a crime. So it's really important that you call and let people know. There's a lot of other information in these brochures. I want to make sure I've gotten everything. Are there any scams here that people have heard about, that they have questions on? Yes?
The Facebook scams.
We can talk about Facebook.
Yeah, I was scammed on Facebook from a friend that sent me a personal message saying that she was happy because somebody was delivering $300,000 cash to her door. And I was asking a personal question. She never answered me. And she kept going on, and she wanted me to send $3,000. They copied my profile on Facebook, and they were using my friends' names to get.
Right.
Like I'm talking with my friend when I wasn't.
Right. So let's talk about that. If we have folks here that are on Facebook, it's important to understand. So sometimes you might get odd requests or odd messages from your Facebook friends. If something doesn't look right, instead of contacting them on Facebook, contact them another way and say, I think you've been hacked because something weird is going on, because that's what they do. The other thing is that sometimes you get these friend requests from people and you're like, I don't even know that person. So I always look on their profile. And, especially, I have to say, a lot of gentlemen will, we think it's gentlemen, who knows who it is. They put up these, they friend request women on their Facebook page, and they'll put up a profile, and it'll be just a picture of a guy. Then maybe there'll be two pictures. Like one guy, he had like his daughter at a birthday party, and then like some other thing, like he's a really nice guy, right? And he's friend requesting you, but it's just a scammer. They have like two pictures on there. They have no history, and then if you accept that request, then they are Facebook Messenger friends with you, and they can personal message you, and that's what they try to do. Or they'll hack somebody and they go through all the contacts.
What they did was they made a fake profile of me.
Okay.
Two profiles out there, me.
Yeah.
and the
So
fake-
you were hacked.
So
Yeah.
so that's what they used.
Okay.
That's how they did it.
And but then they were messaging you about
Personal message.
personal message.
That was my friends were being hacked the same way.
Yeah. So that's what happened to you.
Send a message out to all my friends.
That's what you do. So if you think something's up with your Facebook page, put a message out there saying, don't take any friend requests or personal messages from me. I think I've been hacked. And work with Facebook to clear all that up and get that profile taken down. Now, the other thing that happens for folks with Facebook is, people tend to post a lot of information on Facebook. So, if I'm on vacation in Hawaii and I live here in Uxbridge, I'm pretty far away. So if every single day I keep posting day 1, day 2, oh no, only 5 days to go, if somebody is looking at that, suddenly they know, I'm not home and I'm not going to be home for 5 days. So it's really important that if you are away, you're not posting your timeline like that, how long you're going to be away, where you're going to be. Do it afterwards when you're home. That's what I say. Afterwards, put all those Hawaii photos or whatever you're going to put up there, put it all up. We had such a great time. It's great to be home, but what a great vacation we had. So that's important to not constantly let people know that you're not home. The other thing is sometimes people don't realize how much information they give scammers, so that if they do kind of hack into your information, or they get, if they get personal information of yours like a bank account or that, if they check your Facebook page when they're looking for your mother's maiden name and your dog's birthday and all the stuff that we post, oh, look, today's my dog's birthday. Next thing you know, they're trying that as your PIN. So people don't realize they put a lot of information out there, and then they use it as, PIN numbers, security questions, all of that. So you want to make sure you're not crossing with those things. And along the line of not of making sure people don't realize you're away, it's summertime. People go on vacation. Before anybody goes on vacation, there's really 2 things you need to do. Number 1 is, if you get the newspaper every day, you need to cancel it, because once there's a few papers in that driveway, somebody is going to figure out, somebody just walking by that might not even be thinking of it, sees 3 newspapers and a bulging mailbox and says, oh, guess what? Nobody's home here. So cancel the newspaper, have the post office hold your mail. They'll hold it for up to 30 days. Then they'll bring it right to your house on the return day in a nice big box, because what you don't want, nothing says that. And then if your mailbox is stuffed like that for 3 days, 4 days, 5 days, then you put yourself at risk for mail fraud. You may have information in there. They love to steal credit card bills. Then they have your credit card number. They'll do a change of address. They'll charge stuff up on your card, and by the time you figure it out, they're long gone. Out towards Boston at one point, and mail fraud is a huge issue. And actually, the Postal Service will send somebody in to talk about that as well. Out towards Boston, a woman called the police and said, I don't know what's happening, but for the last couple of days in my neighborhood, this lady just keeps driving around. She's just driving around. Just happened to notice it, right? She's paying attention and she notices it. The police come, they follow her, they stop her. The whole passenger side of her car is filled with mail. So what she had done was she was probably casing the neighborhood for a couple of days. They know when you come, they know when you go, they know which, mailboxes. You just pull up, grab the mail, throw it in the car. There's checks, there's gift cards, there's credit card information, all kinds of stuff in there. So it's really important, especially if you're away, cancel the mail. Again, nothing says, boy, I haven't been home in a while, like 5 newspapers and a bulging mailbox. Somebody had their hand up. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I've had calls from people saying they're from Microsoft.
Oh, let's
And,
talk
yeah.
about
Yeah, and they want me to turn my computer on.
Yeah, so that is a big one right now. That's the ransom, the computer ransoming. So this is what happens. You get a phone call and someone says, hi, we're from Microsoft and we think that there's a problem with your computer. Not to worry, we can fix it. Turn on your computer, go to this website, give us access to your computer, and we'll go in and we'll fix it. Okay, so first of all, Microsoft never calls anybody out of the blue. And once you buy that, they have no idea. They don't know your number. They're not going to call you. Once they get access to your computer, they can install malware that will, again, mine all kinds of data and personal information from your computer. Or sometimes, this is what's been happening, is they put ransomware on there. And that is computer software that locks your computer. And you can't get in it. And the only way you can get in it is if you pay them ransom. $400, $500. Taunton Police Department last year. They were victims of a ransomware scam. They paid the ransom. They could not find anybody to unlock it. They paid the scammers to unlock their computer system. Because once it's on there, it's very hard to get off. So if you're not having a problem with your computer and somebody calls you on the phone, just hang up. Never give anybody access to your computer like that you haven't called. Excuse me. Because once they're in there, they can do just about anything they want. And if you're using Wi-Fi, please make sure your Wi-Fi is encrypted. It's got a password. It's locked. You'd be amazed how good people going through neighborhoods. I always warn people too, I'm not a big fan of public Wi-Fi. I mean, I know it saves data, but the truth is, in a lot of public places, there are people just waiting for you to log on that phone or that computer to start stealing your information. NPR had done this story one time about airports, because airports have Wi-Fi, and of course everybody, they don't have anything to do but surf the web. Nobody wants to use their data. So they brought an expert in, and he comes in there, and what they do is they set up it looks like it's the airport security. It looks familiar, but it's a different name. As soon as they got there, as soon as they started setting up, the guy said, oh, guess what? Somebody's already here. Somebody was already there in LAX with a fake, with fake Wi-Fi, probably getting people's information. He said, somebody is here right now. People are logging into fake Wi-Fi. So when it comes to Wi-Fi, I just caution people, be very careful. If you're going to use Wi-Fi, you can look at Facebook or whatever. Don't do your online banking. Don't start shopping online. Because they're able to capture information on that Wi-Fi. It's not encrypted. It's not secure. It can't be. We all have to sign on. Sometimes they'll give you a password, but a lot of times it's not.
This week I was on Amazon and something in red flashed up saying something is wrong with my Microsoft.
Oh,
Okay.
yeah.
Call this number. Now, it happened about a year ago, again, when I was on Amazon. I didn't call the number. I called Charter Security. They said, don't call the number.
Right.
And it said, and now that happened a year ago, so it flashed again, and because I'm thinking this is the same thing. Again, when I'm on Amazon. And so it said, if you don't call this number, your computer will lock. Well, what I did was I turned the computer off. Got back on, everything was working, went into Amazon again, up comes that red again.
Oh.
Turned the computer off. Hasn't happened again. Could that, whoever is putting that on, do they have my Amazon information?
I don't know. Yeah, I would change my password, and I would let Amazon know that every time you're on Amazon, it's popping up. And I would change your password. I would change everything. Yep. When in doubt, just change it. You know, it's just like if you got your wallet stolen in this day and age. You know, the truth is, whether somebody's going to find it or not or whatever, as soon as it's gone, as soon as your cell phone's gone, you got to call and cancel the service. And I know you say, oh, what if it turns up? Oh my gosh, that is such a hassle. But the truth is, as soon as something happens, you got to cancel it. It's easier to get new stuff than it is to deal with the fallout from somebody having your information. I think somebody, the lady in green, I think you.
No, that happened to me on Facebook twice. Well, I got hacked once, and they locked my computer. So I had to have it fixed, and the IT guy told me. It happened again about a month after, but they fixed it the first time. What he told me was, when that happens, you can't, because if you click anything, they can lock you. He said, unplug your computer for half an hour. Unplug it completely.
And it shuts off.
Yes, and they can't get in.
Right.
So it did happen the second time. I shut it off for about half an hour, and then I was fine. The first time, I was locked out completely. I couldn't get on my computer at all.
Yeah, and I would say, when you're not using your computer, shut it off and unplug it. I usually do, because you know what? You don't want people to have access to your Wi-Fi, because that is the truth. You know, even when you're not using it, even though you're not surfing the web, your Wi-Fi is still up and running. So, it makes sense to unplug it, shut it off.
Yeah, they recommend you.
Yeah, right.
Or totally unplug it, don't just shut it off.
Exactly.
Because if you try to click on something, they can lock it.
Right, and that's it. Shut it off. And they do that sometimes with the phone, too. I have an issue sometimes with my phone on Facebook, and you can't get out. You just shut the phone off, and it just breaks the connection.
There's a couple of scams out called geofencing, and it's also not to walk around with your phone with your Wi-Fi or your Bluetooth on. They can pick out information on your Bluetooth accounts.
Right, so Bluetooth is like unsecured. So that's the problem with Bluetooth. Bluetooth is like unsecured Wi-Fi.
You shut them off on your settings in your phone.
Right, so that they can't access to it. And it sounds complicated, but here's the truth. There's no end to the things that people will think of, whether it's a phone scam or an internet scam. People spend a lot of time. This is what they do for a living. Is that they think up scams, and people are pretty savvy, knowing how to pick up that kind of information. I would have no idea, but they're very good at it. The other thing for your computer is it's really important that you have, virus protection and anti-spyware and have your firewall. You've got to put all that on it and make sure that it's updated. And when those updates come up, I know everybody goes, oh my God, 37 updates. But you have to do it. You have to do those updates. Those updates are installing patches. It's the same thing on your phone. I know iPhone will have the updates, but most of the time, or a lot of the time, those updates have security patches and security updates to keep things safe. And that's why you want to update them, even if it means you've got to wait a few minutes to shut your computer off. It really is important to stay safe. Does anybody have any questions? Have I missed anything? Is there a scam you've heard of? Let me go through it. I've given you so much information to look at your leisure. But if you ever had a question, you can call Marsha, you can call the chief, they will call me, and I'm happy to answer it. Thank you for having me. It's a pleasure. Great.
There's so much that we have to really be a team, right? If something happens to you, please let us know. If you're concerned, that's how we can help you fight it better, okay? We can learn about it together, and then we can help prevent it. So thank you. It's nice to have a partnership with the attorney's office, and we hope to see you again real soon.
You will. Anytime. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.